Hello, lady and gents. Today we are going to be covering Dragon Ball Legends. Oh my god. So, normally this would be an update video on what they talked about, but I actually don't want to discuss that. What I actually want to discuss is something a little bit more relevant to players and what players tend to do wrong when it comes to playing Dragon Ball Legends and how they can improve themselves. So, like, we have now two producers battling it off, and I would just like to point out some of the mistakes they make and why things happen the way they happen. So, why don't we just skip over to where that battle begins? So, let me just play this
Hello,
and
everybody.
go to
Yeah,
Dragon Ball
welcome to
Legends
Cybertruck
Battle.
finally. But yeah, I like to think I play a
A
lot more
lot
than
more than the
the average
average
player.
player.
What do you think here?
You guys are gonna see very quickly when they start playing that this might actually be true. The average player on Dragon Ball Legends does not play like the producers. Actually, it's very funny. So I'm gonna show you guys, but you'll see very quickly what I mean. Okay, so let's just.
Can you beat Toshi?
Yes, I'll give it my best shot.
All right, let's skip over. All right, so round one is very interesting because Toshi is running an androids team, whereas
Alright,
Yu
so the
is
video keeps
running a
beginning. I have to
female
look down and I can't look at
females
the camera
team,
while I'm
and
doing
he's
this, but
interestingly
first
bringing in
let me just tell
Zangia.
you guys, I have to talk while I'm playing this because
Now,
these two.
what I would like to point out before we even begin, like really going into the match, is that Toshi is playing one of the most relevant meta teams in the entire game, and if one thing that you gotta know about androids are not scared if you have a good blue unit. Now, Zangia is not a bad blue unit, but she's not very good in comparison to a lot of the other female warriors that you can run. She's a good option. She's definitely a relevant option, but I personally am more impartial to Android 21 due to that main ability. And that main ability comes in very much clutch, especially when you're using 18 against any red unit. It allows her to actually beat through the red unit a lot better than just having Zangia's draw speed and lock in. That's not as relevant, and female warriors are kind of like fusion warriors in the sense that they're the discount fusion warriors. They do very hyper offensive moves and attacks, but if you break one of their characters down, they start to slowly crumble. Whereas fusion warriors, you can get away with one loss. It's usually when you have two gone that it becomes really hard to come back from, unless you're using Vegito Blue, which in that case you're just using a cheat unit. But that's okay. That's just how these units are designed. I just want to point out that really, if you really want to battle up against an androids team, he needs to pick a team with a good red unit. That red unit is going to come in clutch against androids. And having an access to 0 red units becomes an apparent issue, especially when a free 18 can roam around. And you guys will see in a moment. Let's just continue on the battle. Let's just see how Toshi
Coworkers of
plays.
mine cannot speak
So
English.
he
But
is. That's a
honestly,
perfect vanish,
I'm using
and
that as an
obviously
excuse
messed
if I
up because he
lose this
switched. He should
round
have gone
because
straight in.
people will probably
You
know
nicely
it's really
done,
difficult to
tapped
win
out,
and play
but
this game while
all
talking.
right. So
And
let's see where. Oh,
I have to just keep
that switch
talking.
was a bad
So,
idea,
anyways, I think players
but
have noticed
didn't
what
get
kind of
punished
characters I'm
because.
using
All
right
right,
now.
there we go.
I'm
That was
using
good.
an
That was good.
Androids team.
That
A
was
personal
good.
favorite
Let's
of
see.
mine
Does
mainly
he
because
do
of
side
how
steps?
awesome
No,
Cell
he's
is
just going
and just
straight
in
in, and
general,
you just clicks a card.
Android 16's
All right. So
self-destruct is
another thing to point out is when you're getting knocked back, don't just click a card. Wait till they're done. A lot of players do this when they're stressed out. As soon as they're getting knocked back, they will try to shoot a card immediately. Don't do that. You will get punished all the time. Don't do that. Don't do it out of desperation. Every single time I did that out of desperation, I've lost a game. Whenever I would take it easy and really be patient, even when the ropes are literally not in my favor, I still manage to find a way to bring it back when I am being patient. Because at that point, your opponent is starting to become impatient because they think that you'll make the same mistakes and you don't. And that throws them off, and all of a sudden you've equalized the playing field, and then they start blaming how the game is bugged and blah, blah, blah. But in reality, it's just them playing poorer because they were winning so easily at the beginning. And is not making any of these excuses. No one is making these excuses in this video, which is great. It's just more so the fact that because of what you did, he took extra damage than he absolutely needed to take. Now let's take a look at what's happening next.
Some people probably know, but it's just...
All right, here's another one. Immediately. I don't even have to go any further, but Yu does a double tap. Don't do a double tap. I know that's so easy for me to just say, but if you're double tapping, which I still do it on occasion, if you always do a single tap, because on non-confirmation, they'll dodge, you'll have the chance to either retaliate immediately or dodge as well. Your goal is to single tap, and if you see the connection, finish it off with a secondary tap. If not, play as you would expect. Wait for them to try to attack you, or go straight into them again because you're able to click a card. The worst thing that can happen is you end up in a clash. And clashes, they suck, but that's just how it goes, and you just got to deal with it. Let's continue on.
Use and 18.
Yeah, and then 18.
Yes, mine is Zenkai Awakening.
Yeah,
Wounded,
okay. Oof.
And
this was a mistake.
That, that is another reason
honestly,
Androids is
what I would have done here is I wouldn't have allowed Zangia to die. I would have let 21 die here. And it's not because the buffs aren't relevant when Zangia dies. It's more so the fact that 18, his yellow 18, is way more relevant. Way, way more relevant than the 21. And the Zangia at least has a neutral matchup against 18. The last thing that he needs to be worried about is that Zenkai 16. The big threats are the Cell and the yellow 18. That 16 is just a defensive barrier that does solid damage. I'll give you that. But you really want to focus on that 18. You break the 18, the rest of the team kind of falls apart. And that red Cell is also insanely good, but if you catch him, that's pretty much a dead Cell upon being caught. So it's just something to keep in mind, and that Zangia would have done him so much more later down the line, and you'll see what I mean, if he had kept this Zangia alive. So we'll just show that.
And actually, if you look carefully, Yu's using the same one too. And I think he's reacting right now.
Alright, so I gotta say this right now. Toshi, he's making so many mistakes that a beginner player would make, such as triggering off your ultimate from the back, giving your opponent the chance to dodge, and then his opponent's making just the same mistakes where he's not even trying to dodge, and in fact, he's trying to click cards. The way that they're playing right now, it's not indicative of someone that is above the average player. It's more like someone that is the average player. Someone that is a casual player that doesn't understand how to play the game properly. I know that may hurt. You might feel attacked by me in this video, but I just want you guys to know that these are common mistakes in PvP, and the last thing you should be doing is blaming the game for why these mistakes are occurring. There are glitches in this game. I'm not denying that there are. However, these are not one of them, and if you find yourself in this category, well, these are some things that then, in that case, you can work on yourself. Now, let's watch Zangia die.
Honestly,
ciao.
I wouldn't mind, but I'm getting my hits in while I'm talking.
Okay,
and this is
that's common even for me. Just getting hit by a blast. This is common even in the upper echelon. So don't worry about like that loss of 21 right there. That is a common mistake under major stress. You just experience what every player experiences at least once or twice or multiple times in their life when it comes to this game. So this is not even like, don't even worry about it. This is okay. This happens, and there should be no shade on him for that because that was something that happens. It's just how it goes. Okay, let's take a look.
Hilarious game right now for me because I
am
totally
keeping it and then Clash. Here we go.
It's really difficult.
9-9, 9-9-7 to 8-9-2. Yep.
So he got one hit in finally.
Okay, there we go.
Keeping this in the video because I am wrecking him right now. And
okay, another thing to keep in mind. I think this is very important when it comes to the wreckage. Toshi is playing better, 100%. but it's only because Yu is playing worse. From what I'm seeing in terms of skill level, I feel like Yu might actually be better than Toshi, but he's extremely nervous in the first round. And on top of that, Toshi is playing a way better team than Yu. Yu is maining female warriors, and I main female warriors, and I can tell you right now, they're not in the greatest of spots. I think the only reason why they're relevant at all, and the reason why they see competitive play in any shape or form is because 18 Zenkai exists. Without her, that team just doesn't function the way that it can in this meta, especially with the amount of Zenkais roaming around and how powerful androids are or hybrids and now Sun Family. So keep that in mind.
Cell right now, he still has his resurrection.
I mean, look at that. He's doing side steps and all that.
It's not the same resurrection system.
And this is not going to kill because, unfortunately, he was... okay, so if he wanted that green card to really... He wanted to pop that green card beforehand, which means halfway through his attack. So let's go back here. Let's just go back so you guys can see.
Finally,
so he's attacking, right? What he should be doing right here is that he should have, right here, go straight up. Don't do the side step. No. See, he should have sidestepped a turn before after clicking the main ability. So main ability, attack again, then sidestep. Would have had the green card. Could have gone up, green card, then main ability. This would have at least broken the cell. By not breaking the cell, obviously he's already this far behind in the fight. Okay, this is supposed to be a tap, but whatever, doesn't matter. Yeah, it's gonna hit, and that's gonna be pretty much, yeah. So, yeah, no, see, and at this point, it would have been cell broken, not just. So it's just unfortunate. So obviously, first game goes to Toshi because Yu is just choking hard. No shade to Toshi. He's not a bad player, but he's definitely, I wouldn't say, above the average player. He'd be more the average player. But if we take a look at those stars, holy, and look at the equips. Like, they're better than me. Their equips and their stars are just inherently better than me. And they're not even LBR. Like, come on. And people call me a whale. Jeez. Like, yeah, I'm going to admit that my 18 is Zenkai 7 and 14 stars, but to be fair, she's such an old unit that if you don't have her at least 7 stars, then you clearly are a very new player. And then Android 16, you definitely better have him at almost 14 stars, if not 14. Yeah, no, I seriously mean that. Like, these units, I'm not surprised that they have them at 14, but I definitely will say this, like, they do have them Zenkai 7, so that's a thing. And then 21 being 14 stars on Toshi's team, that's kind of insane. I'm not gonna lie. I think I have mine almost at 9 stars, and I worked my butt off to get her with free-to-play Chrono Crystals, so... And didn't even get her that. I had to use Z-Power to boost them up. And I don't know what currency they use, whether they're using their own money, whether they have it for themselves in the game, whether it's a mixture, whether they're using Z-Power. I don't know. I can't judge that, but what I can say is, holy damn, the stars. Like, that cell is 8 stars, and their equips are insane. And if we take a look at Yu's team, Yu has from what I can tell, a 10-star Kafla. I say Kafla because her name is Kafla, not Kefla. And mine is, I believe, now 8 stars recently, just today. So it says a lot, right? And then 9-star 21. So obviously his team is definitely below that of Toshi's. That Android's team is insane. And they just really need those 3 units to play the game. And that's insane. Anything else is just buffs, which is, like I said, insane. Whereas females, they really actually have to work extra hard just to beat a team like androids. So, yeah, just not a favorable matchup. Androids have such a powerful advantage because female's best unit for red would honestly be EX Videl, but most people don't have her beyond like 1 to 3 stars. So she's not exactly relevant unless she is 7 stars or higher. So just keep that in mind because I would actually honestly say that if you want to use EX Videl, at least minimum 6 stars. And not everyone has them at 6 stars. The 7-star just helps with the boosts. 9 stars is ideal, of course. Whereas that 18 is a nice defensive support unit, but doesn't last very long in terms of the support, and doesn't last very long in terms of defense, and the damage is not very good. So she definitely didn't age well, but she's great if you're stacking everything on that 18 right over here. So let's move on to the second fight, where I'm not gonna... You guys probably already watched this, but it's nice to have an analysis to really see what's going on, why things happened the way they happened. But I just want to point out that you definitely understands the concept of sidestepping, which is fantastic because it really shows. Whereas Toshi is not sidestepping. At least I haven't seen that in round 1, so just keep that in mind. All right, let's take a look at round 2 and see what happens. So we're now getting Vegeta family versus, once again, female warriors. This is a better matchup for female warriors, not because Vegeta family is a bad team, but more so because Vegeta family, with the inclusion of Majin Vegeta, they've kind of dropped the Zenkai Trunks. And Zenkai Trunks is definitely a very tanky unit, whereas Majin Vegeta is not. However, Majin Vegeta does exceptionally more damage, and is obviously more synergetic. Now, that synergy comes with a price, so just keep that in mind. And honestly, that Zenkai Red Trunks isn't as good as people would have hoped when it came to Zenkais. Like, Toshi says that he talks about this unit as if he's proud of it. I wouldn't be so proud of that unit. It's kind of like, imagine you have 3 brothers, but one of them is extremely derpy. That would be this Trunks, a derpy unit that is not like the others. Not a bad unit, definitely a good tank, just not a very good offensive unit, and it really shows because that Majin Vegeta and that purple Vegeta, they do way more damage than he does, and that just says something, especially since he is Zenkai 7. So let's take a look. Female warriors definitely have a better matchup here because there is less defense to deal with, and that's very important because the more defense you have and the more mistakes you're allowed to make, the worse off a fusion warrior team or a female team are going to be. And it's just inherent to those teams specifically. Luckily, fusion warriors have access to excess combos, which female warriors don't always have access to. So that's another thing. So just keep that in mind.
Wanted to fight me one more time.
Oh, and then one last thing is, like, ignoring everything I just said, fusion warriors also have kits that allow them to reset the battle to neutrality at the very minimum, which female warriors cannot currently do.
This is a really difficult situation for me too, that I have to talk and play at the same time.
All right, so here's another thing. Toshi's right. Talking and playing at the same time is not easy. A lot of the time, we don't realize, but when someone is playing on stream or someone is just playing in general, they tend to go silent for the fight. And the reason for it is because their concentration levels. If you are talking and trying to entertain the chat while you're also playing, you're struggling. You're actually struggling. So just, it's hard to focus, and as a result, you make more mistakes, you can create more liabilities. But I definitely would also like to say that it doesn't really change the outcome, I think, in this fight, because Yu is about to prove why he is not to be trifled with when it comes to Toshi, so we're going to show that.
He doesn't even need to talk. In fact, I was hoping he would say something and shout profanities in Japanese, maybe, as I was beating him up.
All right, let's take a look.
There he goes again with his female warrior. Jesus.
There you go, yeah. So,
18,
let's take a look.
Zenkai,
Okay, so that charge step, you saw that. It was not a very good charge step, but it was a charge step. And that was honestly a waste of a blue. I honestly would not have thrown that. Maybe a green card for reduction. Ooh, that was a nice bait. I want to say bait is... Ooh, that's perfect vanish. Yep, Toshi understands that, which is good. But as you can see, Toshi is not doing any side steps, nothing. He's just going straight in for maximum damage, and... yeah. Whereas Yu is using the charge steps, but again, the double tap, and he knows he's making a mistake there.
Some people have been
All right.
speculating that I teased him with
All right, let's
the
take a look. And
picture
then, obviously,
that
as you can see,
had,
Majin Vegeta's
during the
damage is
anniversary.
insane. Like, take a
That's
look
not-
at
that was an
that.
accident. That had
Look at that against a
nothing to do with the
Zenkai
character. That
7,
was
and
really
boom, a
random.
combo and
Didn't mean to
already
do that
half
if
health
I
gone.
did end
Now,
up,
obviously, he's
doing
not
that
very
impression,
tanky,
but
so
I
he's
will
taking
say
a lot of
we had
damage.
lots of
But
things with the
again,
hidden hints and all that
so
stuff that
one
is
thing
definitely,
I actually would have said
I would say
is, honestly,
prophesizing,
that
just
switch into
hinting
Kafla was
at
not a good
things that
move.
we are gonna release in the future.
Not a good
And
move.
as I'm
18
talking,
should have
for
stayed.
these two
18 should have
cohorts
stayed, and I'll show you
advanced
guys why in a
18,
moment. Actually, let's go back. Just so you guys can see. Right?
I did end up.
So if you take a look,
But I will
he's
say
gaining
we have lots
Vanish
of
Gauge back.
things
That's
with
first
the
off.
hidden
Second
hints
off,
and all that
his
stuff
damage
that
is
definitely,
similar to Kafla's, and Kafla
would
is
say
a neutral color, whereas
prophesizing, just
18
hinting
is
out
a
things that we are
disadvantage
gonna
unit.
release in the
So
future.
if he had
And
just
as I'm
kept
talking,
up
for
with
these two
18, he could
cohorts of mine
have
who
then
speaks
switched
English,
into
and
21,
he's really not
right?
hesitating at
And
all.
then after
There's
he was
another
done with
shot
that,
there.
and then kept on a combo
Shot it,
there.
not hot.
Because one thing that he wants to keep alive is that Kafla, especially when that switch is over, right? Because that could have been a nice switch. Okay, but that was a good wait.
Is he gonna?
So what I'm trying to say here, because that didn't come out very well, if he had waited and kept into the 21 instead of the Kafla instead, then in that case, he could have done a better overall wheel swap. So essentially taking color control. Because then he would be forced into that either back into his blue, which would be prime real estate for Kafla, or he would have to go straight into the purple, which in that case is neutral colors, and that 18 would be back anyways, which means that he could switch there. And this allows for you to command the color wheel. Now, the color wheel isn't the most important thing. However, it does help because it allows you to put some offensive pressure onto your opponent, something that a lot of people don't consider. And as you can tell, you did not consider that as he switched into Kafla, hoping to do more damage than what he was already doing, which did not play out the way he thought. So just keep that in mind. So let's take a look at what's happening next. Because anyways, he did call Toshi sidestep. That's good. Punishing those sidesteps are very important. And then the Rising Rush is fine, but...
So, personally...
Alright, so here's the thing. If you're gonna Rising Rush any unit, especially, Vegeta's the way to go. You're gonna lose your Rising Rush as it is, and it's gonna be hard for you to farm the balls. At least this way, they're one unit down. Although, what I would have done, personally, is if you plan to Rising Rush that unit, there was no need to switch. There was absolutely no need to switch. 18 being in here, or 21 being here, he would have been dead all the same. So I think the switch was unnecessary, personally. But that's just me.
I think it's green. And I'm wrong. Immediately wrong.
So let's take a look.
But, you know, you guys saw the first match, right? You saw how much of a butt kicking I did to you earlier. So I'd like to say that made my day. I still have my trunks.
Alright, so let's take a look.
Let's see.
And double tapping once
in.
again, meaning
Still
he's
have
gonna
my
lose that
ultimate,
ult. This is why you don't just pop your
I'm
ult
gonna use immediately.
without actually confirming some sort of,
Probably gonna change
you know.
characters, yeah, so I don't know.
You want to
Still have
pop
to
your
do
ult when
something
you know
about
you're gonna
Kefla
actually be able to
because
land it.
Type advantages and all.
Okay, so that did a lot of damage, and that did a lot of damage too, so I just like to
It's
point
really-
out that...
As I said earlier, it's really difficult for me to
Actually, can I just double
and
check
play
one
at the same
thing?
time,
I just want to double check one thing. Did he have access to Kefla during that switch? Let's take a look. I just
Still
want to
have
double
my
check.
ultimate, which
Yes, he
I'm gonna
did.
use immediately.
Yes, he did. He should have switched to Kafla.
It's probably gonna change.
Because if he has switched to Kafla, he gets a reduction in damage. He also gets at least 20% of his health right back immediately. However, it is nice that that blue card did land on the Majin Vegeta. I'm going to give him that. But defensively, the Kafla was the better move because Kafla is free to just rain
At the same time,
on
but
that Majin
unfortunately,
Vegeta,
I got this
right?
attack in. I would definitely
Yeah,
like
so now he
to
does it.
show you
He's going to
guys
do a lot of
the
damage
finish,
for a blue to
because
green.
that
Like,
would
that's
just
without
assert
doubt.
dominance over you.
All right, let's take a look.
Oh no, he can dodge this.
No, he's not going to dodge.
Oh,
Nope.
not. Never mind. He's surprised too. I think.
All right, so you might all be wondering, how did he not dodge? Because he did a tackle, and usually tackles against you will, I mean, when I say you, I say actually you guys. Usually tackles will allow you to dodge. The difference was that he dashed forward and then went mid-animation when Toshi had clicked the Rising Rush. So if we go back, we're going to look on the left side. Now, look what happens when he clicks it. So he sees the exclamation, goes straight in immediately. He doesn't even wait, no hesitation. And that is the reason why the Rising Rush landed here and why Kafla could not dodge. Because at the time when that occurred, here we go. So he's right here going in for the tackle. Right here. Whereas the green card is being procced, meaning that you have access to seeing ahead of time what you're up against. So that Rising Rush right here where he's about to click, boom, clicks it, boom,
no,
and yep, no, he can't dodge,
Oh,
and that's why.
Never mind. He's surprised too. I think he meant to dodge it.
Well, it's not that he meant to dodge it,
I
he
think
couldn't
my
dodge it.
coworker in the back actually laughing at this too. This is very satisfying.
So there we go. Anyways,
Oh, he guessed it. That's not
okay, so that got guessed. That's good considering Kafla is going to be imperative when it comes to dealing with that Majin Vegeta. Now, obviously, he doesn't actually need the Kafla to deal with that Majin Vegeta, but it's just nice to have, because Kafla will actually have extra damage. Now, this was a nice switch in, and if you guys can see, he's doing charge steps, he's doing side steps. Yu is definitely above the average player of Dragon Ball Legends, whereas Toshi is not, and that's okay. Toshi doesn't play necessarily bad, he's just not as good as you, and it shows. And boom, there you go.
Rising Rush, which I dodged.
Now, of course, they're playing for fun, and it's okay. I just say this in a competitive mindset. Like, I personally am not a big fan of the Rising Rush. It doesn't promote any level of skill beyond your ability to click a button, and click a button very well. Because normally when you don't have access to the Rising Rush, you might not be in a situation where you can actually win or kill a character. And that just goes to show that the other person played the game way better than you for the majority of the game. So if you pat yourself on the back for winning with a Rising Rush, I wouldn't say that you'd pat yourself on the back. I'm not saying you're a bad player, I'm just saying the opposing player most likely that played better than you. However, this is a fun game, so I'm not going to actually rip on you. Also, it goes to show that you definitely understands how to play the game. He's doing the mechanics of the game really well, unlike Toshi. However, Toshi definitely plays very well for someone that is not really utilizing the mechanics of the game. Like the side steps and the charge steps. That's actually amazing. So the fact that Yu is making this many mistakes, even with all of these tool sets, means that Toshi definitely has an understanding of waiting, and of calling people, anticipating what their moves are going to be, and that's very powerful. So props to Toshi right there, surprisingly. But yeah, no, I just want to say that Rising Rush is a mechanic, so don't feel bad for using it. I'm just saying if you are calling yourself a competitive player, but you're throwing Rising Rushes all the time, and you're only winning because of that, you're not really competitive. You're just really lucky. And you're able to guess cards. Good job. Probability isn't necessarily what we want in competitive matches. We want actual certainties. And the only guesses we really want are the mix-ups from neutral to someone dominating one side, or having a very hyper-defensive playstyle, which allows them to keep someone at bay at all times. That's also good. Mix-ups are great, but guessing random cards out of 4 is not great. A 1 in 4 chance, that's not a good sign for competitive viability. I know I use it. I used it a lot recently, but I only use it because I don't care. I'm not playing this game competitively. I'm just saying from a competitive standpoint, it's you see a better gauge of how units are built, and also how good the player is when you're playing without the Rising Rush than with it. So just keep that in mind. Anyways, let's take a look at this. Okay, so Majin Vegeta is really powerful, so he's gonna.
Both of them, outrageous damage. I probably am
Okay,
going
let's
to
take a look.
Screw up.
Yep,
and-
he just screwed up.
Oh, there we go.
Satoshi called it. He made the beginner textbook mistake, which is, I have no Vanish Gauge. I'm going to try to immediately attack. If you have no Vanish Gauge, you are on the defensive. You are trying to either A, get your Vanish Gauge back to 100%, or B, you are attempting to anticipate what your opponent's move is going to be. The best case scenario you can get is that you catch them off guard and you catch them. But it's through anticipation, it's through calling something that is better than the card that they chose. Alternatively, you go into a clash, which in that case, you are up against RNG, but at least an RNG that I'm more acceptable about because it's about timing and reaction. which is kind of what this game is about. So anyone that complains about that really is just complaining about the game inherently, which in that case, go play a different game. Like, usually not a fighting game, because fighting games are all about reaction and timing. So just keep that in mind. Anyways, yeah, so that's that. And obviously now Yu is gonna win because Toshi decided to tackle instead of actually wait it out. He could have potentially had a vanish gauge, perfect vanished, and then made it 1-1, which or ideally called the attack, got his vanish gauge back, proceeded to make it a 1-1, and then potentially perfect vanish for the win. I'm not saying perfect vanishes are great. I'm not a big fan of them. I've used them in the past. I've used them still even today. They're in the game. There's nothing we can do about it right now. So whether you like them or hate them, that's a reality. Toshi could have done all of that and turned this game on its head and won the fight. Instead, he did the knee-jerk reaction, which is, as every basic player does, generally speaking, or anyone backs to the wall, is to try to immediately go for it. Don't do that. Just don't do that. Stop doing that. It actually costs you games. Go try out some PvP games later today. Try just immediately attacking after going on the losing end. Watch your opponent just throw a blue card at you if they're good. They're gonna do it, and it's because you're gonna react poorly to it. So, anyways, let's just watch you finish this fight off. Oops, my bad.
Yes.
I'd like to know, everybody, that I almost won, though, while I'm talking, so I'm still going to say I'm better than him.
So,
But, you know what? Let's
boom.
call it even.
So realistically, if we had to really judge who is the better player here, I'm going to give it to you. And I'm not giving it to you because of health stats. If we were to compare health stats and how much damage each person took, then Toshi obviously is the winner. But I'm looking at also relevant combat skills. I'm looking at just generally how they played. And it's very apparent to me that you on round 1 had just a very, very bad situation going on there. He was making lots of mistakes. He was messing up horribly, and we all have those days. Whereas in round 2, he clearly demonstrated that he doesn't play like he does in round 1 usually. So it's very clear that he messed up royally. And so I'm not going to shade on Toshi. Toshi did a great job in round 1. But a lot of his wins in round 1 were because you kept on making major blunders that he did not make in round 2. And whether it was immediately attacking or trying to go and just not dodge, a lot of that started to stop happening in round 2, and that's very, very apparent. So keep that in mind. Also, another thing is that you had access to his Rising Rush properly this time and actually used it. I'm actually kind of glad he missed the second Rising Rush, because I would have been very salty if I saw 2 Rising Rushes. So there you go. But yeah, that's the fight. Overall, would I say that they're above average players? In second look, no. At least not Toshi. But would he be within the average player or below average? Absolutely. Yu definitely is the average or a little bit above average player. Not saying that he could take on higher level players, but he definitely would stand a better shot than Toshi. He clearly understands somewhat how to play his units. However, I also would like to point out that he does play a little bit suboptimally, so there is that, especially when trying to command the color wheel or any semblance of that, because color wheels, again, are not the most important things, but you guys have to understand that if you are going to try to put offensive pressure on your opponent, you might as well do it with the color wheel, because the color wheel definitely greatly aids you in terms of pushing that damage and allowing your opponent to make the mistake to switch out into something that could then you can switch in. Like, let's say they switch out from a red to a purple, and then you switch into a yellow and let's completely destroy the purple. There you go. That's what I'm saying. That's called dominating the color wheel. Really making sure that the next color that they bring out is not going to stay alive long enough, so they'll have to switch into something that then you can optimally wipe out. Like, let's say 18 against the purple Vegeta, for example. So there you have it. That was the match. I believe that there is nothing else. Yep. Yeah, good job, you. And good job, Toshi, because that round 1 beating says a lot about androids and says a lot about how how many mistakes one can make to give someone like Toshi the ability to win, right? So yeah, I just wanna point out that they played they played decently well. There's a lot of things they could have done better, but overall, it wasn't a bad fight. It was actually quite entertaining to watch, and I'm not gonna lie, I was cheering for you the entire time. But the reason for it wasn't because of my disdain for Toshi, but more so because he's maining female warriors, and I like my whims. So let me alone. Leave me alone, okay? Okay. Okay. Anyways, guys, that is the video. Thank you guys so much for watching. Please don't forget to tickle that like button because I love doing analysis videos and I would actually like to see some of your gameplays eventually. If you guys send that to me, I can then review that and see where you guys go right and where you guys go wrong. So I think it's very important that you shouldn't be ashamed of matches where you did poorly. Because usually by watching those matches, you can see where you went wrong. And sure, they can piss you off because the more and more you see it, the more and more you realize you just made so many blunders and errors that you could have easily avoided. But that's how we learn. That's how we get better at this game. So if that's something that you're interested in, please send me some of your videos. You can send it to me through my not TikTok. Well, you could if you want to, but send it through Instagram, Twitter, my Discord, whatever. Or, let me know in the comments if that's something you're interested in. And, I would definitely love to review those clips because I think it's very important that we all understand that we all start from somewhere and it's okay if we're not the greatest. It's just a matter of, do you want to get better or not? And if you do, I would love to help you out because that's what I originally did on streams before I stopped streaming Dragon Ball Legends. And I don't mind bringing that to YouTube. So, with that being said, have yourselves a salty day. Don't forget to, once again, tickle the like button because that greatly helps me out. I know I already said this, but I will say it again. Please, if you like this video, please like it. It, like I said, helps me out. So, once again, have a salty day, and I will see you guys in the next video. Mana mana, bum dum bum, bum dum bum, blam blam, Saitama!